Hello, I'm Jeff. Today I'm going to be making Austin chili. So to get started, we have 1.5 pounds of turkey, which I ground last night because I have a grinder attachment on my KitchenAid, but you don't need to do that, but I do prefer this way because you can do a chunkier ground. You can also buy the pre-ground turkey, which is a little bit finer, or if you wanted to, you could chunk it up into kind of big chunks and do it that way, but this is how I prefer to do it. So 1.5 pounds of turkey, about 2 tablespoons of olive oil. Get the meat going, and now we're going to add 2 onions chopped up. And we're going to mix this together. And what we want, so there's going to be a lot of liquid release from the onion, and we don't really need to brown this because it's a chili recipe, so it's going to be kind of like a stew, and it'll all cook during the stew phase of the cooking. But we do want to get just a little bit of color, and we want all of the juice to release from the onions, and also to let some of the fat render off this turkey. Okay, so the meat and onions have been cooking for about 10 minutes. And most of the liquid has boiled off that was released from the onions, and we're starting to get a little bit of brown color underneath. So that's just about perfect. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to scrape a little open spot in the middle of the pan and put in some garlic, which I'm going to let brown by itself for about a minute, or let cook there by itself for about a minute until it starts to brown. And then as soon as that happens, we're basically going to add all the other ingredients. And just as while this garlic browns, just as an explanation for this recipe, so this is actually kind of a riff on Cincinnati three-way chili by way of Austin, Texas. So Cincinnati three-way chili rather is a Mediterranean spice-inspired chili that is made regionally in and around Cincinnati, Ohio, and it was originally, as I understand it from Wikipedia, a Greek or Macedonian rather. Couple of brothers who moved to Cincinnati, and they were going to open a hot dog stand and also sell Greek food, and they didn't realize that in turn of the century Cincinnati, the largely German population, wasn't really interested in eating Greek food. So they reworked their menu and took one of their stew recipes, which was seasoned with spices like allspice and cinnamon, and reworked it into a chili recipe, which they then served in several different ways. One way was just a chili recipe. 2-way was chili over spaghetti, and 3-way was chili over spaghetti topped with melted cheese. So this is a riff on that recipe, which is, I guess the riff comes in that it is made using the same type of spices that you would normally have in mole poblano, which is a Mexican dish. In fact, I think it's the unofficial, or maybe official, I'm not sure, national dish of Mexico. And it is spiced with poblano peppers and then a lot of different types of chili powders. Okay, so the garlic has started to brown. We're starting to get some nice, I guess, meat sticking to the bottom of the pan. So now we're going to add the spices. And the first spice, and this is going to be the primary flavor of the dish, is ancho chili powder, which is dried poblano pepper. Again, going back to the mole. So we're going to add the spices now and stir them in and let them kind of cook for about a minute or so to kind of bloom the flavors, and it's going to smell fantastic as this is happening. This is cocoa powder, unsweetened cocoa powder, preferably Dutched. So we're going to add that. All right, next is Cayenne chili pepper, which is going to add heat. You can do this to taste. You can make it hotter or cooler, depending on how you like your chili. The amount that's listed in the recipe will give you, you'll be able to tell that there's a spice, but it's not going to be an overwhelming spice. Next we have cinnamon, which is an ingredient that came from the Mediterranean origins in Cincinnati, and allspice, same origins. And I'll save that one for a second. This is ground cumin. Get this all mixed in. Salt, black pepper, and the final well, I guess there's one other dry ingredient, but I'm going to put that in a second. The final dry ingredient I'm going to put in now is Masa Harina, which is fine ground cornmeal, and is a traditional, or is an ingredient in traditional mole that's used to kind of thicken it. But you can use any type of cornmeal, or if you can't find cornmeal or don't have access to it, or the fine ground stuff, you can omit this and then just cook it down a little bit more during the final cook so that it gets a little bit thicker. All right, so it's very aromatic at this point, and the spices have cooked just a little bit on the meat, and so we're going to go ahead and add the wet ingredients. So first one is peanut butter. I like chunky peanut butter, but you can do smooth. And you could also replace this with tahini or any sort of nut butter like that. And the peanut butter is another ingredient inspired by the mole. Dark brown sugar. Apple cider vinegar. And this is a can of whole tomatoes that I kind of mashed up in my hands to make big chunks out of. And finally, 2 cups of liquid, and I'm just using water, but you could also use a chicken stock or something like that if you wanted to for a little bit more flavor, but water, there's a lot of flavor in this, so water is fine. All right, so we're going to stir all that together. Oh, I almost missed one last ingredient, is oregano. So preferably Mexican oregano if you have access to it. I happen to have some growing in my kitchen, so I'm using some fresh oregano. But dried oregano and Greek oregano is fine as well. All right, so that's it. Now we're going to let this come up to a boil, and as soon as it starts to boil, we're going to turn it down to a simmer, and it's going to cook for about an hour until it gets thickened. You kind of want the final product to be like a wet spaghetti sauce, because you're probably going to serve it over a spaghetti, but not so wet as a stew, but a little bit wetter probably than a normal meat spaghetti sauce that you would make. Okay, so the chili has been simmering for about an hour, and it is a nice consistency, not too wet, not too thickened, good, that you could spoon it over something like a hot dog if you wanted to, and it wouldn't all run off into your lap, is about what you're shooting for, because we're actually going to use it like more like a spaghetti sauce here for serving. So to serve it, I told you that this is Austin 3-way chili. There's actually any number of ways that you could serve it. But we're just going to do it here over pasta. So this is whole wheat gemelli pasta, but you could use spaghetti or any type of noodle that you have on hand. The whole wheat is very tasty. It has a nice tooth that'll hold up well with the chili, so I recommend going that way. And then we're going to finish it with a little bit of cheese. This is Salvadorian style queso fresco that has been shredded, but you could use any type of cheese you like. And then finally, we garnish it with just a little bit of cilantro. And there we go. Austin 3-way chili.